Thank you, Devin. We are joined now by Nurse Christina Paris to help walk us through another important condition worth going into more depth.
Yes, that topic, osteoporosis. And some might know it all too well, and others might not be, too familiar with it or hearing about it for the first time. But walk us through it. Glad you're here this morning.
Hey, thanks.
And so what is osteoporosis?
Yeah, so osteoporosis is a condition where your bone is breaking down faster than rebuilding. So what happens is we have this harder outer shell on our bones, and then we have an inner bone. It's called a spongy bone, although it's a bunch of networks, sort of beams that kind of hold the structure together. And so what happens is every 10 years, our bone, the outer bone is breaking down and rebuilding, and every 4 to 6 years, the inner spongy bone is breaking down and rebuilding. So what happens is that if you aren't having the rebuilding as fast as you're having the breaking down, there's bigger holes, the structure isn't as stable, and so we have, you can have fractures or breaks in the bone.
So how can this kind of be tested and treated?
So what they want to do, so the main structure is calcium that builds our bones. So we do what's called a DEXA scan. It's an X-ray that looks at the mineral content of your bones. And so they want to compare it to, your bones to a healthy bone. So is your bone look as healthy as a healthy bone, or does it look like it's pretty bare? And so then we know the risks. You can take calcium supplements, or there's other medications too, you've probably seen commercials for, that will help rebuild the bone.
And now, does this affect men and women differently, or is it more prevalent in one of them?
Right, so it does. Women are more prone because we lose estrogen, and we lose it faster and earlier in menopause. Where men, it can be a breakdown of testosterone, but it can happen later in life and older. But both are prone, and I think, we often think of women when we think of osteoporosis, but it is just as important for men as well.
Yeah, so what are some ways maybe people can prevent osteoporosis?
So the big thing is calcium. Calcium is the biggest building block. So you want to improve your dietary consumption. So take in more foods that will help produce calcium, and things like vitamin D. So vitamin D is really important because vitamin D is what helps the calcium be absorbed into your gut, into your belly, and then that gets into the bloodstream. So it's kind of like the buddy that sort of walks it hand in hand. So you want to take in both calcium and vitamin D as well. And also limit your alcohol intake because that can also increase your risk of fractures somewhat, just because we lose our balance, if we have too much alcohol. Exercise is really important because exercise builds up those muscles, and the muscles increase your blood flow, which can increase that calcium, circulation throughout the body. You want to quit smoking too, if possible, or cut back if you can't quit altogether. Nicotine competes with the calcium absorption in your bones. So we want to try to avoid that, I guess, if you're vaping too, and vaping high contents of nicotine. Of course, avoiding falls, things like that too, because you're at higher risk for a bone fracture. And when you fracture your bones, especially like hips or legs, the thigh bone, it can really be detrimental.
Well, always, good advice there, and, just to be cautious, keep active, have your calcium, vitamin D, and, if you have any questions, of course.
Absolutely. If you're in concerns, always talk to your doctor, right? Because oftentimes it's not found until it's too late after a fracture.
It seems like, pretty simple things to do in order to be able to prevent it. I mean, even just, a little change to your diet here and there, a little exercise, and cutting off the bad things.
Calcium supplements and getting that DEXA scan, especially for women over 65.
Well, fantastic. Well, thanks for coming on in this morning and talking to us all about osteoporosis. I sure learned a lot this morning.
Yes, I did too. Thank you so much. Yeah.